Are you on yet? Are you filming yet?
Order, everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And justice for all.
Gina, you want to install the roll?
Trustee Rogers? Trustee Minders?
Present.
Trustee Pasquino?
Present.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee Fialco?
Present.
Trustee Laha? Present. Mayor Dukich?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move I-2 to I-1.
That's considered for approval payment of the village of Kimball, June legal bills. Does anyone have any objections moving from I-2 to I-1?
No.
Okay, so I-2 to I-1.
Sure.
So, next will be minutes.
Smooth sounds.
Live performance by...
She got disconnected. We'll hear when she gets back.
All right, so we got to do the minutes.
So that plays my nose. She's lost the call.
We lost the connection with Rose.
No, you didn't. I know that.
So we want to make sure we get Rose back on because we don't know if it was our fault or hers. So I think we should wait a minute.
You should say that now. Rose, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I'll get us back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so next would be approval of the minutes from May 25th, 2022 village board meeting. Do I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have discussion.
For June 8th,
We're on May 25th right now.
I'm sorry.
Is everyone in favor of them? Any questions?
Sorry, just looking at it. I have it now. Got it. Sorry.
All right, all in favor? Or any other questions? Gina, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Minders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Fialco?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Pasquino?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have the minutes of June 8th, 2022 village board. I need a motion.
So moved.
I will second that, and you started with this one, so why don't you?
This one was actually, trustee Consolino wanted me to put this in, she's running late today. On these minutes, any family affiliation of residents should be stricken from the minutes.
Or what is it? June 8th, which one?
I'm not sure, I just have notes from, I guess, family affiliation were mentioned during those notes, and she would like them removed. Maybe we could just pull that aside or table it, would you get to?
I do have one in addition to that, legislative council, if I could draw your attention to it just to make sure I'm correct. I too, on the minutes for June 8, 2022, the last sentence in there says the motion is not effective as the mayor did not make a motion. As far as I believe I'm correct, the mayor doesn't make a motion. He reads the item and then we make the motion. So if that is factual, I'd like that stricken from item 2 as that last sentence.
It should probably be appointment, the motion.
Well, it says the motion.
I'm saying that's, if it is appointment.
I wasn't guessing, I was just calling it for what it said.
Dan, could you do me a favor? Could you wait until everyone's done talking before you
Yeah,
start
but
back in?
I didn't ask for his help.
Like,
If I asked him for his help, I can see that being the case. I asked for legislative counsel's help.
You want to make you want to make a correction?
No, the last sentence in there, the motion is not effective as the mayor did not make a motion. The mayor doesn't make a motion, he reads the item and we make the motion. So I'm asking for that to be stricken from as the minutes for the.
Is there a way that we can hold off on June 8th minutes approval before, so that could be voted on here today?
Actually, the record should just indicate, or the minutes should indicate that the mayor did not make an appointment.
Right.
So no motion was acted upon. That's probably the correct manner in which to phrase that. Since the individual name was not appointed by the mayor, there was nothing for the board to do. Okay. So that's what it should say. You want to make that, have that correction, have the record corrected?
Yes, I
And
do.
reflect that?
Yes.
You should make a motion to that effect.
I'd like to change that to make it that the mayor did not make the appointment as to number 2, I2, for June 8, 2020.
You're making a motion to correct it to reflect that.
Yes.
Do you have a second? Yes?
I second, sure.
You should have a roll call on that motion to correct.
Actually, trustee Consolino walking in, that way she could talk about the other amendment that should be done.
I know, but you should, if you're going to change the minutes, you should go item by item. So you have a motion and a second to change the minutes to reflect that the mayor did not make an appointment. So
I'll
the
second.
board did not act. Now you need a roll call on that motion.
Yes, trustee Consolino is present,
put the time down.
7:08 p.m.
And so
The roll call.
she doesn't have to.
For the roll call, trustee Consolino, you had, there was a change that you needed. They could
Yes.
specify
We
that?
said to do the roll call for this one.
Separate?
Yeah,
His-
separate.
his piece.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So trustee Bialgo,
Aye.
trustee Reinders,
Aye.
trustee Rogers. Aye. Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Laha. Abstain, I wasn't here. And trustee Casimino.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Trustee Consolino, could you address your correction for the minutes on June 8th?
Yes, if you go to the June 8th meeting, 2022, page 4 of 7, there's a few speakers that spoke. So I'm going to request that we please strike from the record the following from the meeting minutes: any family affiliation of residents who spoke up during the public meeting. There are 2 individuals in particular where the clerk did this, and I feel that this is personally kind of persecutory to do this when people's family members are speaking. I've also witnessed the clerk herself have family members who came and spoke at the podium during meetings, and she never referred to them as her family members in the meeting minutes. So I don't understand why we would permit this for anybody else. Thank you.
So we need a motion and a second to amendments.
To do what?
To strike,
Strike.
What are we striking?
so on page 4 of 7, please strike for Talia Rhodey.
Strike.
Strike the comment that she is his daughter, character as a father. And then also line James and Terry Rhodey, identifying that this is Mr. Rhodey's mother.
Oh, the actual.
Yes.
What do you want stricken?
I want stricken the identification of who his family members are, and it's a little too late now since this is coming out publicly.
So for Talia Rhodey, you wanted to just say spoke in favor of Jay Rhodey?
Yes, and that's all it should say.
And then for,
Same thing for the other one, which would be for Terry.
you would say Terry Rhodey.
Yes, it should just say that James and Terry Rhodey spoke in favor of Mr. Rhodey.
Is there a motion and a second to make that correction to the record?
If you're looking for a motion, right? I will make that motion.
I'll second.
I will second.
Now you're late.
Okay, I need a roll call.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Casino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Abstain.
Motion carries. All right, now we still need to make a motion on a correction to approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
What, where are we at?
This is what Jennifer was looking for.
17.
We already made that motion and second on Jennifer's item, and it's been taken care of.
We have to do the minutes themselves.
And
The
now we're
rest
on
of
the
the
minute
minutes.
portion of it? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Well, isn't Dan just make the motion? Who's the
I'll
second? Jeannie, you want to call the roll?
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Abstain. Trustee Casino?
Aye.
Next is going to be public comment.
I think we
Oh,
got
wait,
one.
I have one more, June 17th. So, I need a motion on to approve minutes for 2017, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion. Gina, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Casino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Abstain. Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Okay. Motion approved. Next would be public comment. Do we have any? Jamie Elsner?
Hello, my name is Jamie Elsner. I have known Rose Reinders for 20 years. She's very passionate and protective when it comes to her family, her business, and this community. There is nothing that will stop her from making Homer Glen a great place to live and raise a family. Her contributions to this village and the people of Homer Glen are endless. You will never hear her speak of her charity or generosity, but I am going to give you just a few examples. She has been feeding a family who lost their home about 5 months ago. They come anytime that they want to into the restaurant, and she feeds the whole family. She has donated to the school, the library, and when needed, for 3 months straight, she got up at 6 a.m. every day to take one of her employees to chemotherapy. He was battling cancer. She fed a homeless shelter for the whole summer because one of the residents was living in their car at St. Bernard's parking lot. I too was also blessed by her generosity when I lost my job last November. Without any question, she was the first one there to help me. If that does not say anything about the character and the kind of person that she is, I don't think you know Rose the way I do. She will never let this village down. I think it's a shame that she is being tried in this court of public opinion, and sad that you are taking sides and allowing this to happen. A true leader brings a community together and doesn't try to destroy it from behind the scenes. Thank you.
Next would be Ann Johnson.
Good evening. I am here to speak in behalf of Rose Reinders. My name is Ann Johnson, and I've been a server for the past several years at Rose's restaurant, Taza, here in Homer Glen. Over the years, I have come to know Rose personally and can tell you she is by far the most family-oriented, charitable, and honest person I have ever worked for. If any of you are familiar with the restaurant business, you know how chaotic it can be. That said, no matter how busy Rose is running her business, she always takes time out to personally get to know her employees and customers. On any given workday, her passion for her business shines through as she greets all who enters through the doors. Whether it is a smile and a "how have you been," or "how is your mother doing," or "how is that new baby," Rose knows everyone by name and knows their story. Personally, I am a mother of 3 grown children and a grandmother of 2. When my last grandchild was born, Rose gave me the time off I needed to spend with family. When one of my children was facing serious medical issues, she checked in with me every day just to see how I was coping. When a friend of mine lost her son suddenly and unexpectedly to cancer last Christmas, she made a generous donation to the family without having ever met any of them. And speaking of Christmas, a time that isn't joyous for many, Rose provides meals for those who cannot afford to feed their families. No questions asked. When I heard that Rose was running for mayor, my first thought was, wow, how awesome. I'm honored to be here and to share my personal experiences with Rosie with all of you. Rosie is a strong, loyal woman who is no stranger to difficult times herself. She perseveres and leads with all her heart, setting the true example of what community means. She has treated me like family, and I know she will continue to do the same for the people of Homer Glen. Thank you.
Next would be Renata Mendes. Renata Mendes. Next will be Jim Shake.
Good evening. So I was a little concerned about the special meeting. It was broadcast on YouTube, and I did get a chance to see it. Again, I'm going to talk about the electioneering and campaigning on the taxpayers' dime. And I'm sure the argument's going to be that most of those people were taxpayers, so they have a right to speak. But there was people there that were not taxpayers, that do not live here, and are running for Will County Board. I think it's unethical, and at the least. So I wanted to address that. But for the main thing, we all know what happened by now with the two mayoral candidates. And yes, everybody knew that they were both running for mayor, so that wasn't a surprise, even though they didn't publicly announce. But I'm not really here to talk about the technical definition of battery. I mean, I can shoot a rubber band at someone or punch someone in the arm, be like, hey, what's up? And then, be arrested for battery. But what I want to talk about is the appearance of the impropriety and what's being talked about now. It's being talked about as a political hit job. Anyone who has studied business ethics and government, or ethics in general, or even has common sense, knows that the appearance of wrongdoing or bias is something that you should avoid at all costs. That's why you'll never see me at a bar with a member of the opposite sex other than my spouse, because it just looks bad. Law enforcement should not have the appearance of bias either, as it relates to candidates during the election cycle, and that's what happened here. And it ruins trust in our justice system. Besides, two elected officials that are running for mayor who get into an argument, I mean, that's never happened before in the history of ever, right? Ripping up a business card and throwing it is grounds for an arrest or a protection order. You get a protection order when you are afraid. Are you telling me that the fearless clerk needed the protection from an older lady who just recently had knee surgery, who is trained in the deadly art of business card combat? Is that what we are supposed to believe? What's this really about? What's the appearance? Well, it appears that this was a planned, coordinated effort by the mayor and his favorite candidate for mayor to set up and discredit the opposition by using Will County Sheriff's Office as a vehicle to do so, while also getting free press from the Southtown newspaper, and also getting the names of the mayor's friends and upcoming candidates for trustee in print and on video to make it appear that these candidates are fighting the bad people on behalf of the residents. It's a cheap shot game that is being played by a group of people who have nothing to run on except a history of raising property taxes, and I hope this does not damage the trusting relationship between the sheriff's office and the people of Homer Glen, because we are going to need that trust when it comes to January 1st, when all the criminals are let out. This whole thing was unwise, unfounded, unethical, and unbelievable. Thank you.
Mike Carlson?
Okay, good evening everyone, I'm Mike Carlson. I did see the YouTube video out front there, the Lie Tube, that's your headquarters for lying about everything. The thing that I hate is you guys, we had some people bashing the attorneys on how much money we're spending. Yeah, we might be spending a lot of money. Do we really need this guy? He does nothing. He sits there and he whispers in your ear, you whisper in his ear, nothing gets done. This attorney over here actually speaks, talks, and does what he's supposed to do for his money. And he might interrupt because you're doing something wrong. I mean, that's how it is. Now, the bashing in the parking lot, I'm getting tired of your people bashing these trustees. These trustees come here to work their ass off, and that's what they're doing, and they're getting put down by you. You're the problem of this whole thing. You're the one that started everything. If you would have just not bashed everybody, this would have been a perfect village. Now these people have to fight and go over fires and humps and everything because of this. This is ridiculous. The arguing, the fighting, and the bickering needs to stop today. Look at Rose. Poor Rose can't even come here because of all this. This is outrageous. This is crazy. And I'm not going to tolerate this. And I know a whole bunch of other people that aren't going to tolerate this. We need to stop the bickering. Go have coffee with these people. Go sit down and have a beer. Enjoy yourselves. You've got how much more time left? Don't you want to go out with a big bang like, hey, successful mayor? Or do you just want to go out and throw your hands up and say, well, I tried, but the trustees stopped me? That's because you're a weak mayor now. You have no power on anything. All you can do is veto. Like, what kind of mayor is that? Resign. I don't know. Just get along with everybody.
Christine Clausen.
Hello, I am here to talk about Rose. I don't know Rose very long, but the time that I have known her, she is literally the most charitable person I have ever met in my life. She is the sweetest person I've ever met, and what is going on right now is a political hit job. Everything that Jimmy said, I literally was gonna say. So it was awesome. That's exactly what's happening. I think it's absolutely disgusting. Like he said, I've witnessed rubber bands being thrown, punching, and nobody got arrested. Business card is absolutely ridiculous. Rose is an amazing addition to this community, and I don't know what we would do without her. She does more than anybody I know secretly, privately, and doesn't brag about it on social media. Like, look at me, look at everything that I've done, because she is a good person. And I think what is being done to her right now is absolutely horrific. And Mike Carlson's right, you should get along with everybody. I don't understand why we can't all get along. I don't understand why, you know, it's a constant fight. It's a constant battle, even with the Democrats, you know, and the Republicans in this town on social media. It's constantly fighting and making us look bad. It's gotta stop. It makes us all look silly, and it's gotta stop. And with that, I'm just gonna say Rose is an amazing human being, and I think she would be an amazing mayor.
Jay Brody?
Mayor, trustees, a little bit what I want to talk about is our residential taxes. And I'm just going to read off some numbers. This is all public information. I'm going to give you my tax bill first. 2017 to 2018, my taxes went up $145. 2018 to 2019, it went up $242. 19 to 20, $379. Last year we had an election, and one of the things that the majority of the trustees did, including Rose, they voted down a suggested tax hike. You want to know my taxes went up this year? $1.30. My parents, that are senior citizens, mind you, 2019 to 2020, their taxes went up $376. You know what their taxes went up this year? Thanks to you guys voting that down, $18. I've got a friend in Kingston Hills. Their taxes went up 2018 to 2019, $590 in 1 year. 2019 to 2020, their taxes went up $451. You know what their taxes did this year? They went down, $31.74. This subdivision is a little bit more well-to-do. This is across from Denolfo's. Their taxes from 18 to 19 went up $500. 19 to 20, $888.76 in a single year. You want to know what their taxes went up this year? $4.82. And one of my newest friends, his property backs up to the Walter Farm. His property taxes in 19 to 20 went up $412.34. You know what they did in 21? They went down $27.22. The reason why I'm bringing these numbers up to you is because numbers don't lie, but people do. All right? You guys and the majority of the board that came in last year, you did exactly what you said you were going to do, which is refreshing for a politician. You also hired a new village manager. What? A new village manager that lives here, that has skin in the game. That's not going to go anywhere. Hire from within. Companies do it all the time. Makes all the sense in the world. My whole point of this is thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Rose, if you can hear me, this is Jay Rody. Thank you very much. God bless and God bless America.
Next would be Robert and Doris Elwood.
Short and sweet.
First off, I'm listening about the incident that everybody's aware of. I did 32 years of CPD. If you're not on the scene, you got no idea what happened. You read stuff in the newspaper. I was on so many jobs, I read an account in the newspaper, and it was like, nah, I had no idea what they were talking about. So, I have a question. I understand that there's a lot of crossover between the folks at the Homer Glen Village Board and the township. Some folks that are active with both. I also understand that the village clerk, Christina Troike, is one such person, and understand that the clerk was removed from the township senior committee. I was wondering if anybody's got an idea why, and was she replaced by somebody? Did they just eliminate that position? Full disclosure, I know the clerk, Chris. My first encounter with her was last September or October when we worked together to put on the event at Cano Farm, Cano Goes Blue. And at that event, we raised about 10 grand for police organizations that take care of families of fallen officers. It's a personal thing. I lost my wife. She was a state trooper, killed in the line of duty. This is big. So, I don't know, any assassination know that Christina's heart is in the right place. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for public comment. No other reports from communications. The only thing I've got on this is, we continue to preach about working together, but it's clearly not happening. However, we decide to proceed with the situation, we'll set a precedent for potential situations moving forward. Safety, respect should be the pillars of what this village stands for, yet social media and certain actions say otherwise. We are letting our village staff, and more importantly, our community down. We have a lot better that we can do. That's all I'm going to say for right now. So we'll go to Trustee Yelp.
All right, thank you, sir. Reporting on the fest, at the last fest meeting, we got some clearer numbers as to where our feet landed as far as our income, expenses, the profit, and how we were under budget. To give everybody those numbers, the income for the fest was $248,760.95. The expenses were $148,864.50 for a profit of $99,896. We were also under budget by $38,661 for a total of $138,557. We do have one thing pending with the Will County Sheriff's Office as far as the payment to them for their services during the fest, but other than that, it seems like most of the numbers are in. I would also like to say Tony Draybeck works on the fest committee. He wasn't able to be part of public comment today because of work, and he would like me to say this. Due to the last minute work obligations, he's not able to make public comment. I want to address the village board and the mayor and say how proud I am to be a member of the Homer Fest committee. This year the fest operated under budget and made a great profit. I know the final numbers are not 100% yet, but there is definitely a nice profit. The weather was in our favor, and the committee, volunteers, and vendors kept up successfully with the patrons and made it a successful event. Regards, Tony Draybeck. So that is my report, sir.
Thank you. would be trustee Gazzino.
Thank you, sir.
I have something to say.
About what? We're doing, Rose, right now, we're doing reports and communications. I'll get to you too.
Sir, if she'd like to go ahead, she can report that on the phone. She's actually before me.
Okay. All right. Trustee Reiner.
Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to let you know I'm so excited, as most of you might have read on social media. I announced it on Monday when I got the call from Mike, who is actually constructing he actually designed our playground for the park. He told me that the park will be delivered, all the parks will be delivered during the week of September 21st. And he said then he will contact me to begin construction as soon as possible. So I'm really excited about that, and I know the community is really excited. So I just wanted to let everybody know that, and that is my report.
Thank you, Rose. Trustee Gazzino.
Thank you, sir. Reporting for CED. Very exciting meeting this session. Thanks to our Director of Economic Development, Jane Pash. We have a program called Open for Business, which pretty much helps local businesses with strategic planning and different advertising ideas, bringing more people into the village to spend, and how to draw in more business, which is also very important. I want to give everything away because we have an actual plan that we want to present on the 24th during the next board meeting. We also came up with the Economic Development Marketing Plan. Now, just to give you a little bit of what that's about, that actually educates the residents about the relationship between development, rooftops, and business attractions. Also put together by Jane Patch, approved by the CED, and it's very promising, and very excited to hear about that. Last week, the most important part of the CED was more discussion about the town center. I want to give a lot more information away, but I'd actually like to put this on the agenda for the 24th. We have a little bit more info, more pictures, more graphics, more illustrations. I'm very excited, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Rogers.
I have no report. I know there was some confusion at the special board meeting relative to how or why it was not able to proceed because we weren't received. We didn't get personal notifications. I know we never have in all the other ones. We've had several this year. I don't know how many we had last year, but we had at least 4 or 5 this year. So what I'm looking for moving forward is for either Carmen or the attorney to give us some direction on process moving forward so that doesn't happen again. If we're going to be personally served now, who's serving it, how much time needs to be served, if the clerk or the assistant clerk's responsibilities for that, how much time are you going to give them to get around town and try to get everybody's face and push the hand these things, or are we just going to be realistic and do what we've been doing forever and have the emails, and if so, what ordinance needs to be changed in order to do that? So I'm looking for some type of direction from the village manager on that so that we don't waste everybody's time again. That's all.
Thank you. Next would be Trustee Lahat.
What's her name? Is she coming back in? Is that right?
Rose, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I have a couple reports. I'd like to kind of piggyback off of what Rose was saying.
Nicole, sorry, I want to add one more thing. I'm sorry. I also want to say congratulations to Nicole. She will be competing in Miss USA pageant next week and representing the state of Illinois. So I congratulate you no matter what the outcome is. We're proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. This kind of goes hand in hand. I'm really proud to represent Illinois, but I'm more proud to represent what we're actually doing here in our village. When you have a child who can't necessarily play at playgrounds. That seems kind of like, oh, how can that be? But it happens all the time. Our kids sometimes have to watch from the sidelines, and that can be really hurtful to watch as a parent. So I'm really proud that the work we're doing here in Homer Glen is something I'm actually talking about when I compete next week at Mrs. America. We are putting ourselves on the map. We're having it so all kids can play, and it's a really good feeling. Just a couple of things why this playground is so unique. For one thing, Rose and I in the committee decided that we wanted to do the pour and play. Pour and play is a surface that all wheelchairs and strollers and kids who may have braces on their legs can walk on without falling and tripping. It's huge. It's something that every single playground should have. Also, we have the Bolito swing, which is something that my committee worked extremely hard to get. It's a swing that's the shape of a circle, so if a child can't sit up properly, like a lot of our kids can't, they can at least get that feeling of swinging back and forth and looking up at the sky, and adults can be in it too. So I highly recommend you try it. It's a really nice swing and a really nice addition. I want to thank our committee for working so hard on that. Also, we have shade coming to the playground area, which is huge. I don't know why that's not regulated or a necessary requirement for playgrounds, but I really feel it should. So Homer Glen is really taking steps in the right direction in protecting our kids, and not only having a playground where some kids can play, but a playground where all kids can play. That's a really good feeling, and it's something really, really proud that Homer Glen is doing right now. So I just wanted to tell you how big of a deal this park is. Next, reporting for the Ability Awareness Committee. Our next meeting will be the 2nd of the month, and we planned a new roundtable. We're planning a new roundtable where actually Member O'Connor brought up the topic, and it's going to basically putting a trust in place for your special needs child who eventually is going to be an adult. And I don't know if any of you can relate, but sometimes I stay up late at night wondering who's going to take care of my child when I can't. So this is going to be geared towards that, talking about that. I'm hopeful to have some legal there and some people who specifically deal with those types of trusts. And that's it. That's my report.
Thank you. Next would be Trustee Consolino.
Hi, everybody. I wasn't really going to give a report tonight, but I do want to say a big thank you both to Nicole and to Rose. The accomplishments that they're pushing forward with our park are just amazing. These are things that were never considered before by our village, and I think that it's a big accomplishment that they are able to not only put these ideas forth, but they're actually making them happen. We have committees that have been around for a long time, and a lot of voices went unheard when things were brought up, and people have stuck it out for a long time. I know that they appreciate you both greatly, and I look forward to what is yet to come, because I have a daughter that gets to enjoy that as well, and I know a lot of people in this room that actually are going to reap the benefits. So thank you guys, that's much appreciated.
Okay. Next, village clerk. Eric.
Congratulations to Trustee Baha, back on bed next weekend. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Kerry.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have any report.
Okay. Public safety officials.
No report.
Village manager.
I do have a report. Thank you, Mayor. Just want to reiterate, we have Market in Glen still going on the first and third Thursday. I also would like to bring up our Chuck It Up event. It's a really cool event. You have to pre-register to get involved. And we also are looking for volunteers for that event. I think this is a great way for our high schoolers to get some of their community service work. You have to be at least 14 years of age, and I know we are looking for a lot of volunteers for that. This is a great event. It's sponsored by us, and it's a lot of fun, and I think the kids will have a lot of fun with this. Another update for the sports field. Football looks like they're underway with practice, and their well pump was installed on Tuesday, so that's a good thing for them. So we're all happy about that. And then the EMA, we're still looking for some more volunteers to help out with our EMA. We are down to 4 members, so we're trying to build that back up. And that's all I have to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Next is going to be the consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of July 20th or July 30th, 2022 through August 11th, 22 in the amount of $219,652.48. That's it. Just
I'll second.
could you please call the roll?
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Bialko?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next thing would be I2, consider for approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen's June legal bills from legislative attorney Oldster, Murphy, Fraser, and McGrath, LTD, in the amount of $10,625. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I will second it.
Discussion?
I would like discussion. I would like to on the record that I refuse to vote to approve any further billing to the mayor's attorney, Eric Hansen, and his firm, Mahoney, Silverman Cross. I agree firmly with our residents. We should only have one attorney and one law firm. Mr. Hansen does not have knowledge or certification in parliamentary procedure, and he proved it again last week when he tried to conduct an illegal meeting on behalf of the mayor.
And would we switch?
I missed on that. Sorry.
So, should you take the roll, please?
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Consolino?
Abstain.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Trustee Bialko?
Aye. So, just as a point with this, I talked with the village manager today about some of the building that does come from law firms, and we're going to be discussing it during the next meeting, before the next board meeting, to see if there is possible to, like if the FEST utilizes the legal counsel, the FEST committee would be charged, it would come from the FEST budget, or if Parks uses the services of legal counsel, Parks will be charged for that. So that's just something that we talked about during the week that we're going to look at. So we should have an update on that possibly at the next meeting.
All right, should we call the roll? Consider for approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen June legal bills from Mahoney, Silverman and Cross LLC in the amount of $2,047.50.
So moved.
Discussion?
I stand by what I just said before. And I'd also like to add why I would rather choose having Mr. Horvath, because he has proven his worth at every single board meeting that he has appeared at. He has always been professional. He is exceptional with his knowledge and display of parliamentary procedure when assisting us on the board. He is also respectful even when the mayor has attacked him and screamed at him, including telling him to shut up. Mr. Horvath is also exceptional with his legislative knowledge and experience. More importantly, to piggyback on what Dan said, he is the one that our staff goes to for resources and for assistance. He's the one that responds to them, not Mr. Hansen.
You want to call the roll?
Trustee Pasmino?
No.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Bialko?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
No.
All right, well. Well, as for, I don't even want to talk about this, but as for this, he is our lawyer. So whether he should be paid the same way everyone else is paid. And because you guys go over to them, that's all right. How many times have I asked who you working for? And he says, he works for you. But it's not you, it's us. So I don't care what he does. If he's just charging us for something, that's not right.
I believe, aren't we waiting on something? We had a resolution back in October, I believe, and the resolution was asking for information in regards to some payments that were made. Did you ever receive a full answer to that that was asked of?
You mean with Silverman Associates, the resolution we did was
Yes,
October 27th?
That was it. But you asked of that, of Eric's firm who was involved with that, who is Silverman, Mahoney, Silverman Cross, and you have not received the complete response to that?
So I've pursued several different complaints. That's where I'm at with it. Because it's clear that I'm not going to receive the information. None of us have received it. And I've given ample opportunity, and I just checked back again recently, a little over the last meeting. So it's clear, it's no different than anything when we've had to go to Mr. Hansen and ask for information.
Although I agree with, some of the things that you're saying, I mean, we still have to pay people for services that they've provided. That's why I'm kind of a little bit.
Even when they have funneled money to other organizations?
I wouldn't know that.
Like Silverman Associates?
That is out of order.
Excuse me?
That is out of order.
I'm answering her question. And I've said that publicly on the dais several times.
Right, and I know that's a point that we're looking into, but I'm looking at the bill right here in front of me. That's what I'm voting on specifically. So.
Village Manager Marla, can you tell me on average, percentage-wise, how often do village staff use Mr. Horvath over Mr. Hansen in the past maybe 6 months?
Some staff look at Eric for confirmation with, real estate and zoning issues and stuff like that. And all of us, when we lean on legislative items, we lean on Gary Horvath for that.
And I can answer, we don't call them. We don't call our lawyer every 5 minutes or whatever it is, but there's a big difference. It's $2,047.50 and $10,625. It's very hard for me to find out how come it's being charged that much.
We have detail.
So he's staying on as mayor until I'm off.
I think a big reason for this, Mayor, we are responding to what the public's asking for, the two attorneys. A lot of the work that's done, we're going to be honest, having numbers are numbers, right, are through the legislative attorney, not only through the trustees, but through staff. And, appeasing and answering the questions of the residents, why do we have two attorneys? If one attorney can do all the work, we don't need two. And obviously, the board prefers to have Carrie representing them.
But you still have Carrie. You already hired him, and it was only supposed to be for litigation, and it's not. It's for everything. And it's also the trustees calling. When we first got in here, no one could call them except for me or the village manager because we didn't want to raise bills on them. That's not happening now. They don't call, they don't do anything for right here. And the clerk.
I guarantee you that if you ask the attorney to answer a question, if you ask him anything, Mr. Kerry Horvath will take care of it for you. At the end of the day, sir, the majority of the board would like Kerry Horvath and his firm.
And you've got it. So let's go to number 3.
I'm asking for my moment. The reason the cost is so low with the real estate lawyer is because these services are not being rendered to the pace that legislative council's services are being asked for. And if I remember correctly, back in October, we live in a democracy. And I understand you can keep your lawyer because that's who you want. But at the same time, in a democracy, we voted 5-1 to bring in Mr. Horvath and his firm because they're parliamentary procedurally accredited, where the real estate lawyer is not. And that was why the decision was made. And you can see the difference is kind of night and day in my observation. And I think the best representation for the village was voted in by the 5 trustees who voted for it. If the minority chooses to keep the other law firm, then that cost is on the minority. That's basically what it comes down to. So I see it as somebody, you know, when the majority wants something, that's what we should be going with. At this point, the minority wanted to keep the real estate lawyer, and that's where we're at. So to answer the public, we have voted on it. We have taken and voted on it 5-1, and Attorney Horvath was the choice with this board at that time. So if there is an extra expense of any kind that anybody's talking about, either at the podium or on Facebook, that extra expense comes from the minority choosing to keep the other lawyer, not because the majority chose to hire the law firm who is accredited in the processes that we go through at every meeting.
Trustee Fialko, for me personally, I don't think this is a debate whether or not Kerry is an exceptional lawyer. I really feel he is. The debate here is that someone has rendered services, and this is the bill.
Well, we already voted on that, so I'm not talking about the bill
Oh,
right
I thought you were
now. I'm
addressing
talking
me.
about how we got here today.
Oh.
That's what the conversation was, how we got here
Oh, I thought
today,
you were-
not the bill itself, because we voted on that.
Okay.
We get constant phone calls, and I don't think this is what everybody up on this board understands, is we get constant phone calls and emails, and we also see the rhetoric that's going on social media and in news articles. People want to know why we are paying for 2 attorneys. They assume that it's the majority of the board who requests and voted for Mr. Horvath and Olson and Stirk to represent us. It is not us that are choosing to have Eric Hansen and Mahoney Silverman Cross. It is the mayor that chooses. It is the mayor's right to do so, and it is in the ordinance. Only he can terminate the contract in that attorney, not us. So I want that out in the open. Thank you.
I think it's also important to add that if we go back and review the tapes and the minutes from when the decision was made to bring on another attorney, and the language and the verbiage that came from this board was, we want a second opinion, we're only going to use them for this, we're only going to use them for that, and that was clearly never the case from the get-go. So that the pretense that he came in on and what he's actually being used to do are 2 different things as well. So when the decision on my part, and also clearly saw that there, and have seen, and people have noticed it as well, is the conflict, exactly what you all felt that you had with Eric, myself and the mayor, and some of the staff, you know, we spoke a little bit about it at A&F, feel the same for the others. So, in all fairness, if we go back and we can see why did we start with these 2, none of that is happening. But I agree that, you know, the vote's been made, so.
Just to clarify, I was in the A&F meeting, and there was absolutely nobody that spoke against Kerry Horvath or
I was there also, and I back up Trustee Pezzuto on what he just said.
No, then I'll clarify myself and correct myself. I'm not saying that anybody said anything negative towards them at A&F. At A&F, we talked about the fact that the staff is comfortable using both.
All right, Madam Clerk, well, we already did it, so we're going to go to number 3, consider for approval the sponsorship and participation of the Senior Lifestyle Expo to be held at the Hadley Middle School on September 10th, 2022.
So moved.
So moved.
Discussion?
I think this is wonderful. I think this is something that's been in the works. I know we talked about it. Part of our plan was when we ran was to do things more for the seniors. I think this is really great. I'm happy to see this on the agenda. And my parents can go, they're seniors. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. No, this is great. I love it. I think this is great. I would like to see more of this happening.
It's an amazing program, and I'm glad we're doing it with the township. This is all what it's all about, collaboration with the people that we all serve in county. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Any other?
I was at the senior bingo yesterday, and all of the seniors are really excited about attending this.
You know, there was a promise made that we were going to work together and closer with the township, and between senior bingo and Mike Bonomo running that, and all the volunteers that come from the community, and now with the senior expo and working together with the village and the township, I don't think we could have a better example of harmony between the township and the village that we have today. And I thank the township and everybody who is there for their help and working together with the village, and the same thing with all of us from the village working with the township. I think it's a great, great thing. Kind of night and day from what it was before. And thank you to both sides for everything that we've done.
Next would be consider.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Pesmino?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Fialco?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Motion carries. 4, consider for approval ordinance number 22-33, an ordinance granting a variance to permit a mix of stucco, natural wood panels, and porcelain materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standards of 75-67A. Applicability and scope, type of building or structure of the code of the village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential at 13717 Hampton Court, Homer Glen, Illinois. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Carrie, can you also just, I know we had some discussions on this, can you just please state for the record that none of the neighbors have expressed any concern, comment?
Yeah, we didn't get any concern on this, no.
No, we have not.
Any other discussion?
I just had a quick question. Is the resident here for the person? How are you, sir?
Good, how are you guys?
Beautiful house. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's like a modern version of, was it Frank Lloyd Wright?
Yeah.
Definitely my type of house. Just had one question.
Sure.
So you got the marble, you got the wood. Why the stucco?
Well, the stucco is gonna be, it's not gonna actually look like stucco. It's gonna be more of a formula like a tile, and it's a very good insulator too for the house.
Okay. So it's not stucco per se?
Yeah, it's gonna be more like roof, so it's gonna kind of give it an imitation of like tiles kind of thing, so.
Gotcha. Like mosaic?
Kind of, yeah.
Now you got it. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
And Joe, you have no problems with the layout of this and the materials being used as far as?
Any materials are going to meet the building code, so we'll check on the testing agencies for the materials, make sure they're approved materials.
And any current concerns you have about this project to share with us, though, at all?
It's going to be an interesting residence.
And as far as you know, the question was that no complaints came through you, though?
Nothing came through.
Residents about what might be taken place?
No, that neighborhood is pretty unique in some of the architecture, and we have received no negative feedback.
Thank you, Joe.
When they got noticed, did they get a picture of this? Or was it just, I'm just a little,
We
because
don't.
it is so different,
Yeah, we don't typically do a notice, it's not like a plan commission notice, it doesn't go out to local residents or anything like that, it's just that's been the policy that we've done.
Sorry to interrupt, but a couple of the neighbors did see how the house is gonna look. The one there's a house that just built right across the street, so they see these plants, and the neighbor towards the south line, he's seen the plants of this house too, and they were excited. Just like so you know.
I think it's beautiful. I like it.
Yes.
My wife designed it.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Does she want to?
Very beautiful.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialco?
Aye.
Trustee Laha? Aye. Trustee Pesmino?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye.
Motion carries. Number 5.
Thank you.
Consider for approval the purchase of the used John Deere Demo 1600 Turbo WAM mower for the Parks and Recreation Department in the amount of $400,900.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second.
And as far as discussion, if I can go first, this went through A&F and we've been knocking this around for a while. We did approve $63,209, I believe, at the last meeting. But since then, with the local business, we were, Village Manager Morella and myself were talking, and we reached out to a local Shorewood who carries a John Deere product. Now this is used, but it only has 900 hours. It's available now. I believe the 2-year wait that we had on the other lawnmower went up to $110,000. We just took in all the parks recently, and we need a lawnmower like yesterday. So with this being $44,000 instead of $110,000 and no 2-year wait, it's available immediately. We also discussed about getting a warranty for it. You were successful with that. Thank you, Village Manager Morella, for doing that. So I think this is a great move. As soon as this is approved, we can bring that lawnmower in and get to work. This lawnmower is a little more expensive because it does the work of 3 lawnmowers at one time. So at first glance, it looks like it's a little expensive, especially when it's $110,000. But this will help parks complete their work a lot faster and easier. I believe you had one of the parks or 2 people look at it.
Yeah, 2 of the park members.
And they were very happy with it because it's a little bit higher. They can see the edges of the mower, and I think this is a great move, and I'm glad you were able to work with Shorewood, a local business, instead of the other one, I believe, wasn't even a local business that we were going through. So we're working with the local business. We got a great price. It's available now instead of 2 years from now, so my recommendation on this, being that it went through A&F several times, would be yes.
I think it's great. Thank you guys for both reaching out to them.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Laha. Aye. Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers. Aye. Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, consider a motion for approval to sign the release as prepared by NPL NICOR in order to acquire a check in the amount of $3,850, which will reimburse our account for the payment we shall pay to Braniff Communications, Inc. for the after-hours emergency response to remove the village's tornado sirens due to the water main break on June 16, 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I know a little bit about this when it took place, but could, for just shortly in layman terms, would you be okay, Village Manager?
Yeah, so what happened with this is our tornado siren was in the way of a water main break when they were doing some construction on Bell Road to get the widening done. And with that, it was an emergency pullout. We felt that it wasn't our responsibility to pay for this, so we reached out to the company that actually broke the main. And in return, it was at $3,850. We held payment for it until this company releases their funds, but we needed a release from the board so we can go ahead and get our funds so we can pay off the building. That's where we're at with that. So.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers. Aye. Trustee Pasmino.
Aye.
Trustee Laha. Aye. Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we go into workshop. Review and discussion of a proposed mixed-use plan unit development for 137.5 acre property located at 14059 West 159th Street.
So moved.
Oh, this is the workshop.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well,
Tonight we have, on behalf of the owners and the land planner on the project here tonight, they'll be presenting. This is a concept plan that proposes a walkable mixed-use open space conservation neighborhood with commercial development along the frontage on 159th Street, supported by residential uses deeper into the site. Residential uses include single-family detached, ranch duplexes, and townhouses. I'm going to briefly go over the zoning on this and the comprehensive plan, and then the gentleman from Tesca Associates is going to present the project. And for the zoning, the front of the property is currently zoned C3, and they would retain that zoning. The attached residential component of the project would require a map amendment to R6A, which is our attached single-family residential zoning district. And the single-family detached would require a map amendment to R3 or R3A. Single-family residential, that's our detached, two of our detached, the smallest lot size zoning districts that we have. And then I just wanted to point out, you can see the land use pattern on the map here, where you see the commercial along the frontage of 159th Street. And then right behind it, to the east and west of the subject property, you can see where Stonebridge Woods townhomes are zoned R6A. And then to the west, where Messenger Woods is also, that's attached townhouses zoned R6A. And then behind those attached product, you can see the single-family detached product, which is R3A to the east, the Stonebridge Woods development, and then Evelyn's Gate to the west. This would be the same land use pattern that they would be requesting. The comprehensive plan calls this property out as agricultural with related uses. The only thing that I could determine on this is that they were identifying this as an existing land use. I can't imagine why long-term for a land use plan that they would look at a property like this along 159th Street as being long-term ag, unless they just assume that the family would hold this property into perpetuity as a farm. So I would assume that this would follow suit with the rest of it would be fine to follow suit with the rest of our land use pattern along that road, even though it's a little bit different than what the comprehensive plan says from 2005. The 159th Street in the comprehensive plan is characterized as becoming the Homer Glen's primary mixed-use multi-purpose commercial corridor. This would hopefully be a vibrant mix of commercial, restaurants, offices, public, institutional uses, supported by residential behind. I've also highlighted a few areas of our housing ordinance, the housing goal that's in the comp plan. Objectives 3, 4, and 9 were really pertinent to what they're proposing here, which is permitting of smaller lot residential developments in selected areas, so long as the project is characterized by generous open spaces conservation design and is compatible with neighborhood development patterns. Objective 4 considers a limited amount of high quality and compatible new townhouses and multifamily in selected locations on a case-by-case basis by the board. And then also Objective 9, which requires creative site planning and residential development patterns that preserve and enhance environmental features and open space character in the village. And you will see when Nick with Tesca presents the plan that this project does meet all of these objectives, I think. So I'm going to let him present the plan, and if you have any questions for me, you can direct it to me or to him. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet everyone tonight. Nice for these folks to come out this evening. My name is Nick Patira. My profession is a land planner. My company is Tesca Associates. I've been in the business for 45 years. The plan that we put together for Homer Glen on this Dunn farm, 137 acres, is something that we've taken and done as a specific plan that's unique to this property. The idea here is to do something that also embraces what Melissa was talking about with the comprehensive plan, is meeting the goals and objectives of creating a balance of land uses, so that we've got residential of 3 different types. There's townhome, there's 2-family home, and single-family home, and there's also commercial of mixed types of commercial that would be retail, some service business. We're having a reserve location that I'll show you in a minute. that could accommodate a grocery store, that would be appropriate for the 159th Street corridor. But the idea with the plan is to create something that is attractive, it's distinctive to and unique to this site. It's not a cookie cutter plan by any means that would fit into some other community. This is Homer Glen, and this is important to understand that we set out to make this into a plan that would be creating value for not just this property, but for the surrounding neighborhood. We don't want to walk out of this meeting and say we've deteriorated the value of the surrounding neighbors. I'll explain that more in detail. We also considered the countryside character. Dunn Farm has history, and there's a northeast corner farmstead that would remain. The woods on the east side are important to us, and that shows up in the comprehensive plan. Again, that would remain. But it's not just call it the perimeters, but it's what happens on the interior core of the property that increases the presence of open space. The open space that you'll be looking at here is 66% of the site. That's a healthy number to say that we haven't just locked up the site with one wall-to-wall home site locations and roads, but integrated open space interior to the development as well as the exterior perimeter to be friendly to neighbors. You'll notice that as we get into the details on the plans, and I know it's hard to see the screen above or in front of you, but the ideal locations for homes has the ability for almost all of the homes to be able to walk out onto open space. So you could open the back door, go out the backyard, and get onto a walking trail, get onto an open space. So this is what we do as what we're calling open space conservation type plan development, is to make it so it is unique and distinctive. This is anything but a subdivision. If I was to say that word, you'd picture row house and wall-to-wall homes and roads. This is not what that is. So we're going to seek your input and support this evening. I know that there'll be a lot of discussion. This is a workshop, and I'm going to go through a few other images. Who can who can advance this to the next image? There's 4 or 5 images here that I'm going to go through. It starts off on the 159th Street side. Thank you. What you're looking at here is a 20-acre piece of ground on the front of the property. The 20 acres is the square rectangle, but what we're doing is coming in with one main entrance coming in off of 159th. Do you have a cursor that we can kind of steer people? It doesn't work. Okay. The main spine is coming in through the center of 2 village green parcels. What we didn't want to do is to have people entering our residential neighborhood feeling like they're driving through a commercial parking lot. They're actually coming through a village green commons that would approach the residential neighborhood. The brown red buildings are retail buildings along 159th. They would transition to more support type buildings with the lighter brownish red color, the L-shaped buildings. There could be things like childcare, medical office, and such. The reddish building on the left is the footprint for a potential grocery store. We do not have any tenants. I don't have names of specific users at this point, and we're not seeking a specific development plan. If we go to the next one, thank you. This was just a sketch plan to say that we could potentially have some drive-through business. This is the name of business these days. The bookend along 159th units could, 159th corridor could have support for drive-through business, but being able to have queuing and stacking in an appropriate way that would organize itself and not congest traffic or not congest parking. What you're not seeing here is a big parking lot other than in front of the grocery store. The parking is all around the perimeter of the outer ring. There would be a right in and right out at the top right corner and the top left corner that would allow access for service as well as visitors to come in from 159th in addition to the main thoroughfare coming in. We'll go down into the residential next. Abutting that commercial area, and this is the top left which would be the northwest portion of the property. These are townhome attached residential. They're all facing the street. There's an internal loop road that offers easy orientation, so you're not getting lost in cul-de-sacs and dead-end turnarounds, but the loop road would allow you to travel and find someone's house and say, come on over, we're on the ring road that serves the property. This does not offer a thoroughfare that would make a speedway cut through between 159th and 163rd Street, but the big ring road would actually disperse traffic, allow people to get through the property if they did live down south or if they were trying to get up north from the surrounding areas, but you're not using a speedway thoroughfare to get through this property. The townhomes, and I'll move on after this, but the townhomes all face, just like the, they all face the street with front doors. In other words, these aren't rear-loaded townhomes, but they're front-loaded townhomes with the front doors facing the public street. And then each home that we have here, whether it's the townhome, now we can switch to the duplex homes, they all have 2 cars on the driveway at least, and 2 cars in the garage. So parking would be generally supportive of the homeowners, and then you can still invite guests over to park either on the driveway or on the street. You can see on this is duplex. Each one of those brown cubes is two for a duplex each time. These are generous square footage on the duplexes, but you can see when I had mentioned that they all abut open space, the idea is that both the townhomes and the duplexes are situated on common area, so that it would be, you're not buying a lot other than just the unit that you live in, and the maintenance and the management and the open space would be maintained by a homeowners association. As we go through, you can see each one of them faces open space. Trails are kind of ghosted in with that light, smaller color, white trails going through. And then finally, these are on the north and the center of the property. And then the south part of the property is a single-family residential. And I can reorient you once we get through this. But the single-family home sites are all custom-type homes. This is the one place where we're not abutting open space, where you can see lots are back-to-back. The south end of the woods that is against 163rd is preserved to provide a buffer, so those lots don't go all the way to 163rd. There's a landscape buffer that would separate the rear lot lines from 163rd Street, so we don't have double fronting lots, first of all, and we do have a courtesy to the neighbors to the south of us that we're leaving those woods on the south, and then on the greater part of the woods on the east would all be remaining. Beyond this, we're going to show you some images. If you go to the next one, please. This is a character. The top picture is a character of the townhomes with diversity of architecture and materials, roofscape and streetscape, but you can see we have front doors facing the street, and I think that's important to understand, that we're not just having a garage doorscape along the internal roads, but we're having presence of people and arrivals and visitors are able to easily find their front door. The same with the duplex, which is the lower picture on the right bottom. This is a two-family duplex. The doors to the homes are on the right and far left corners, and so you're not seeing who's coming and going. If you're having guests over, you have a degree of privacy, even though there's still a common wall of a duplex in between. The presence of streetscape and landscape is important. And what we're looking at with the planned development is that the integration of architecture, landscape, engineering are all compatible. So you can see there's some similarities between the character of the townhome to the duplex, even though they're distinctive. We wouldn't be duplicating, and you're not going to see a monotonous repetition of the same type of duplex, 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 or townhome, townhome. It doesn't just keep repeating itself. Each one will be distinctive, so you can actually find your way home and know that this is your residence. And lastly, as we go through to the next one, if you would, thank you. This is just some samplings of the types of single family which would be occupying generally the south part of the property. The whole reason that we organized the site plan with the higher density to the northwest with the townhomes, to the moderate density of the duplexes in the center and the single family, is because we're considering the proximity to the residences to the south and to the west, and having compatibility with what we're using. We're not putting high-density attached housing on the south end. The overall density on this property is 2.2 dwelling units per acre. Again, that's not being aggressive. I think that I don't think there's anything after this. If we just go back to the site plan, I wanted to keep this brief. I know that there'll be more questions, but on the site plan itself, recap just for a minute, but the idea of where the lightest yellow color is, that's the single family on the bottom, and on the left, the woods on the far right would remain. You're seeing blue areas that would be stormwater management that we've incorporated into the property. And then what I had shown you is the duplex homes on the middle right half. It looks like a circumference around the ring road, and then the townhomes are on the top left. Why? Because they're abutting the commercial. This is all kind of the right transition of land uses from commercial to town, from town to villa, or duplex, and then from duplex to single family. We do have 4 points of entry besides the main entrance coming off of 159th. We do have an entrance that enters into the single family at 163rd and Newport Drive, and aligns with Newport, and comes into the ring road. The ring road is really just a circulator, but to bring you through. Every time we hit the circulator with the entry road, we're looking into open space, an open spine. There is a Badger pipeline that runs through on a diagonal from lower right to top to middle left. And the Badger pipeline would be, in all purposes, invisible and incorporated into the open space as part of the trail and open space network. There would be still another entrance on the far left at Isbrook, and then one further at Meadowview, if I've got that name right. So this is, I guess, the basis of the plan. I'd be happy to answer questions from trustees, or if public is going to have comments, that's up to you. But thank you.
I know you met with, if not all, most of the trustees and got some feedback from them, I'm assuming, at that.
We met one-on-one or 2x2, so we didn't violate any Open Meetings Act, but just had sit down with trustees. You're correct.
So I'm curious, the feedback that you got from the trustees, what did you take from that and put into this plan?
We took a lot of comments, but a couple things. One having to do with the south entrance and making it so road orientation at the south entrance is the detail here, but the south entrance coming in off of 163rd would be a very constructive comment that we got, to not have it go direct to the ring road, but to have it meet, I can't explain it, but there was some road reconfiguration and lot reconfiguration. There was also a comment about the woods on the south along 163rd to make sure that if there would be trees affected by those southernmost lots, to get a tree inventory, to evaluate the trees, and if need be, to incorporate further landscape buffer to the consideration for the neighbors to the south. There may have been some other comments, but those were the ones that I took to heart.
I think one of my recollection of this was, as we talked about the entrance coming off of 163rd Street, putting those calming devices in there, which I see that you did, and then reconfiguring the road, because I think previous didn't go straight, and there was concerns that it would be a speedway type of a thing. I see so many of these that I can forget, so I see that you did that too. One of the other concerns that I had though, and I'm just curious, the road that connects the commercial to the residential, we talked about, you know, putting a calming device in there, and I see that, but we talked about perhaps doing a roundabout there so that we don't have trucks going through there, or doing something.
Some type of a boulevard on both the 163rd, you're absolutely correct, but on the 163rd, not to make that look like a second-tier entrance, but to make that, enhance it with traffic calming. And likewise, up on the 159th entrance, can we have boulevard, can we have traffic calming, maybe a pavement enhancement that would distinguish it as you're leaving the commercial and coming into residential. Those were constructive comments. And again, that's not shown to that extent here. Those were comments that we gathered, and we wanted to kind of hear further input before we come back with greater detail.
Yes, I know personally my concern is that because you had that commercial in the front, the tendency to maybe a truck make the wrong turn and say, well, I'll just turn around and I can see it being an issue here with commercial traffic coming into this. So, you know, I do like the landscape there, but I also think maybe looking at perhaps doing a roundabout so that a big truck would have a difficult time doing something like that. Or something
some type of traffic calming. I'm not sure if I'm agreeing to roundabout at that location, but I do appreciate and understand what you're suggesting is that we don't want. There's an outer, almost like a horseshoe road that goes around the backside of what we're calling grocery store, and there's a right in, right out, both at the top left corner of commercial and the top right, so it's easy for trucks to flow through. I don't want to end up having them spend longer time going around a roundabout, but I do agree that we need to get some clarification so that it doesn't look like, oh, I can take a right, go through this neighborhood, next thing they know they're winding around and in front of residential front yards.
Trustee Rogers, where were you looking for the roundabout?
Something that comes, you know, my concern is all of the trucks that are going to be servicing these areas coming in here. And then
Melissa, go to the second
lost or needing to
image.
turn around again. So, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So they added this here to make it more calm here, down here.
Well, we could make that look more like a gateway to distinguish it.
Right here, they added this, see this line right here, that to slow some. So this is my only area of concern. Maybe that's something, you know, your committee can look at. I think that island's gonna help a lot with the trucks, you know, especially make it as thin as we can.
Yeah, I just don't want to
I understand.
slow traffic. I think that the outer ring of the commercial area, what I'm calling kind of the back road, can also have stops and, you know, say that for trucks it's left turn only, no right turns.
Yeah, I mean, we could say that, but then it's not monitoring it. But I'm sure Jennifer's committee has ideas, whether it's, I'm not going to say it's speed bumps, but, you know, something that we can do to deter delivery trucks and things like that.
Joe, do we have any similar developments that have
We could look at some
something?
traffic studies and things like that. We really don't know.
I like the amount of buffers that you have between Stonebridge and Evergreen. That's going to help tremendously. So how much room is that between both sides? Like, for example, in front of Evergreen, you said that was how many feet?
Or give me a little more, I can give you some estimate, but the woods, southern part, the woods along 163rd, or
right.
Yeah, that's the strip between the single-family residential and 163rd is not much more than about 25, 30 feet.
Okay.
but that would be landscape buffer, and I think we would also do landscape in the backyards of those homes. I can't have the homes touching an internal road and 163rd as a through lot, that's a no-no. But we would have a landscape buffer as a separation north of 163rd, if that's the area you're asking about.
Gotcha. There's obviously a lot more between Stonebridge and...
That's what I thought you were asking, that's huge.
Yeah, very nice.
How much of that on the, trying to sit back my directions, so the east side, how much of the 66% of open space do you think that would be on the side that
On the
is next
east
to
side, the
Stonebridge?
right-hand side,
Yeah, on the right-hand side.
it's 40 acres, I know that for sure, but I can't do that kind of math in my head.
Did you say you have no LOIs for the commercial portion in the front?
There's no specific LOI at this point. There has been interest, but we wanted to make sure we had some consensus from the village and the residents before we started entertaining specifics.
And then I just want to double check with Melissa. So we're looking at 66% open space. It's a 2.2 on density, which is good. And we're also looking at, it falls into both the conservation ordinance and the comprehensive plan. It fits almost beautifully, correct?
I do want to clarify, because I spent some time looking at the plans for 2018 that were presented on this property. And I have a little bit of a different opinion on how we look at PUDs overall. That case, when it was presented, looked at the townhouse density all by itself, and it did not really take into account the entire property, all the residential, and it's difficult to do that when you have open space. The open space does not get taken out necessarily of that net acreage. You take out floodplain, wetlands, slopes greater than 12%, roads being proposed, but the rest of it's included in that acreage number. And so it gets difficult. The PUDs, when you have mixed land uses, I think it's important to understand what the impact is of the people on the whole parcel. And that's that 2.2 that you're seeing. So when I do the analysis, what I would do is analyze that you can do the incremental pieces, all the pieces by itself, and look at it that way, and look at the lot sizing for the single family, which is how we would do a normal subdivision for just single family detached. But I also want to look at the aggregate, and then we can compare those numbers to the past, just so that we know that we're looking at apples to apples. I think it's important to not want to, because we'll want to look back at the old project when we go through this to compare, and I think it's important. But I think it's important to understand that the people, the dwellings per unit on this overall parcel is going to be 2.2, which is pretty low.
I think I just go back to what Ruben's probably going to speak to at the next meeting. This is ideally what I'm looking for in the village, where we're getting a little bit of both. Because we can't have one without the other. We have to have the commercial in order to bring the rooftops and vice versa. So I think for me, it's ideally is what I'd like to see, is to continue to see commercial in the front with residential in the back, or whichever residential that may be. I know at the previous plans that we looked at, or you all looked at the last meeting, it's not always going to happen. It just doesn't always happen, and it hasn't happened here for a very long time with development on the come. But we knew once 159th Street was done, we would see this. So this is exciting to see, and hopefully get some LOIs in there, and because I would hate to see it go undeveloped, like just sitting there, and we're only getting the residential back. So that's a concern for me too. But I do understand you have to start moving dirt before you see interest from these brokers and developers. So I understand.
We have shown this to some commercial developers and gotten some input. That's what propagated the idea about drive-through. We know what happened in the last 2 years. Drive-through is what kept some businesses going. And so we have integrated some of their comments, but without specifics to say who's the tenant, who's the user yet. That's premature.
No, I understand.
Any other questions?
I think overall, I like it. It's a great project. You know, it fits in with what we need on 159th Street, and then you have the residential in the back, which is going to pretty much embrace the commercial in front of it. So, I mean, I think we're in the right direction with this specific project.
Just one quick question, as far as the commercial development in the front, it's a little bit different, I like that, instead of your typical strip mall, but the type of clients that you attract with that style are typically what type of businesses?
We envision, there's a couple things. Just to answer the question is, you heard me say I don't want to drive through a parking lot to get home. So that was an important challenge to have this entrance on 159th be an attractive entrance, and to go through those two little village green areas. The front row seats, so to speak, along 159th would probably be the type of uses that you would see along fast casual dining and more food oriented. I think the middle of the two flankers on the middle of the village green in an ideal would be restaurant, sit-down type users that would look out onto the park. The two southern L-shape, which this is an eye test for anybody's sake looking at this. Go to the next one. There we go. The two L-shaped, could that be services more like, if it's childcare, daycare, medical, those types of uses? Is that what you're asking about? It would be a transformation from what's appealing on the corridor to what's kind of the second tier back, or the third tier back to serve more of the community.
No, I just want to say thank you for taking both the conservation ordinance and the comprehensive plan. I know you spent a lot of time figuring around that, and I'm very happy that you did that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have fun doing these plans, so this is a good one.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it has some character to it, or it's not something you typically would see in some of the neighboring communities. I won't name names, but there's a lot of green space. I like that you took the suggestion where we're adding some more curbs in here, so there's just not a lot of straight roads. And I think, at first glance, it looks like it could be quite charming.
We still have to go through, as you know, specific engineering. We've set aside areas for stormwater to make sure we're being good neighbors and to ourselves as well as to the surrounding neighborhood. Before we do that, there will be things like, you mentioned traffic, I mentioned engineering. We need to get, some concurrence from the village that says we're headed the right direction. So I think that's the spirit of the workshop. I think we've got, more to listen to. I see an audience behind me. I'm happy to answer questions, but however you favor to carry on.
Hey, Dan, I wanted to ask you, do you remember what we discussed about characteristics on that park and trying to stick with Dunn Farm?
We did ask, did anything that you could find historic in relationship to Dunn Farm, it could be worked into the project, and we were told that I believe your group said that you would be able to do that, and you would look for every opportunity to make that happen.
If there's history and it's practical and feasible, I think that tells a story about what this property.
Practical and feasible, kind of a great phrase. So I don't know how we could determine that one way or the other. Melissa is good at determining things like that. I think it would be historic to the area, so I would hope you would be working with her in that process.
We've talked about that, and it's agreeable.
I think also if we could, piggybacking off of that, if there's some way we could pay homage to the name, because this name means a lot in this town before it was a town. So if there's some type of consideration, maybe you already have some marketing in place and that's not even something that's doable,
but if we could continue to keep the Dunn name alive in the community, I think it would be a good gesture.
Yeah, thank you. I'm all for it. There's a lot of ears in the audience, as well as you. I've heard the name Hickory Grove. I don't know if that's the name of the Dunn farm, but let's, get other people's opinions, and if it gets done in Hickory Grove together, I think that that's an appealing idea.
I believe we did discuss that during the meeting when we sat down, that Hickory Grove is actually the name of that property, and Dunn Farm came in afterwards. So Melissa, I don't know how we would work that out with what Trustee Rogers is saying, and or if we can accommodate both, but however we preserve the historic character of being able to let that project know that this was, a historic site of some kind, I think that'll all work well.
I think the presence of the buildings, the name of the woods that are there, these are all additives that say this isn't just a blank canvas. There's story and culture here.
Thank you.
And I agree with Trustee Calvo and the trustee about keeping that integrity with the Dunn Farm name. Also, the fact that you have the walking trails, that's something that we're trying to incorporate in, long-term in Homer Glen. Eventually, maybe someday, you'll be able to connect to every subdivision through a trail. So this is a nice segue into that.
I think we did discuss that too.
Yeah.
We were outside of
Thank you. The trails are there, 2.5 miles worth so far. So get your pedometer going. Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Rose.
Okay, Madam Clerk,
Rose might have questions. Mayor Rich. Rose?
No, I'm good. No, I like the project a lot.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next would be old business.
I have one more small workshop, one slide.
Okay.
So this is one of the zoning code updates that we had talked about originally, so we're swinging back around. If you remember, I'm not sure how much detail you remember on the Duncan property, but we just addressed cross-access in that project. And we changed the code in, I believe, 2020. It used to say something to the effect of cross-access is required where feasible, where feasible. And oftentimes with the development community, when it says something like that, it's usually not feasible. So, all of our visioning plans, complete streets policies, our codes ask for development of all kinds, residential and commercial, to be connected for many reasons. One is just to facilitate traffic in long term. Sometimes it doesn't seem like the traffic is an issue. The long term, it can become a huge issue if you don't have circulation that's off of main roads. Public safety is a big concern, and trip time for our first responders, making sure that they have easy access to these developments, whether it be residential developments or into commercial facilities, and not having to get out onto main roads in order to get to these places. So those are just a few of the things that are reasons why those this type of thing you see in many visioning plans for many villages. It's in codes everywhere. What I'm trying to do in this case is to make sure that we're codifying what it is that we want to see. So the things that consistently come up with us are wanting to make sure that we have an easement granted, wanting it to be built, because it's difficult for it to be built after that person who's granting the easement leaves, right? So it's difficult to come back after and have that stub built. And then one of the things I wanted to clarify, and I've seen this in other codes, is that sometimes a lot of codes want agreements. What our code currently says is that we would want an agreement between two property owners. And we've talked about this with a lot of projects. This is what can kill projects. Trying to get a property owner that's not developing to come along for the ride they oftentimes want money or who knows what else in order to agree to those agreements. So with Duncan, what we did was grant the easement and then created it so that it was, it would only become like a live easement once it was reciprocated to the property that was granting. We worked with an attorney to help put that together, and we think it worked pretty well, so we'll see. But I think that making it clear that we don't necessarily want agreement between the two property owners, I think is important. And then we think that once the easements become, they both are granted, and there is reciprocity, that those owners then will want to engage in maintenance agreements on their own without the village having to insert ourselves in the middle of that. And then one thing I did notice on some codes is that there's exemptions that are included that we could address, and that would be like things like natural features, or if you have incompatible land uses that you don't want to have cross connection to, or if there's vehicular safety factors, significant topographic changes that make it very difficult to make the cross connection work. I don't know if we want to put these in there exclusively, or, I mean, that's up for discussion, I guess. And then I'm just open for questions if you have them for me. Any questions?
I see where you're talking about site-to-site access, but we had the recent thing between the building development that was going to go in south of 159th Street and Dogwood, between the two, and then we had Wilco because it was offset. Would this be part of the plan to adjust that to make it more, that we could work easier with that type of situation without jumping through a bunch of hoops, or is this not part of what you're trying to address also?
So that situation would be, I mean, that property is a result of a stub being created. Now, there's not an easement in that situation because it was right of way, right? There's a stub with a right of way to the south. To the north, I mean, I guess Trustee Fialco in that situation, if this was codified, we would be asking them to connect also to the north, which is what our code does ask for, except that in that situation it's difficult because there's not a lot of land.
I realize that. I'm saying in this process, can that type of situation be rectified with what you're trying to change?
Like in the exemptions potentially?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Melissa, I had spoke earlier about a property that I'm familiar with in town that has gone undeveloped because the shopping center next to it will not grant a cross easement, so that piece isn't going to get developed, or they're actually, they want a lot of money for it. Is this going to help something like that, or no?
It will in the future.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's a perfect example of what, I mean, I think that was set up to work that way, and there were things that fell through cracks on the backside, you know, and I think that's, doing this during development while we still have them in front of us, you know, before the plat gets approved, this is when you want to do it. You want to do it at the time of development, have it on the plans, make them build it, grant the easements.
Okay. Any other questions on it?
Do you have any comments? No?
Okay. Next is old business.
We should have an update on the block cameras. Are we still at two?
Still at 2, Dan.
All right, and Lieutenant Taylor? Any updates on the 2 block cameras that we have installed at this moment, and if we've solved any crimes with them?
No crime solved.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any update as well on the Will County investigation on forgery?
Still ongoing, no update. All right, under new business, right now. All right. Right now, I would feel that this is not our call to discuss, K1 or K2. It is out of our hands, and it's with the police department, and there is no charge on this yet. So, as far as I know, there's nothing to talk about until something comes up.
Thank you for making that decision. That was the right thing to do.
So, all right, then is there any new business? Gary, is there anything on executive session?
I have nothing, Mayor, thank you.
All right, then I need a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.